G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to a quick discussion about War Thunder boats with Mags. This is the follow-up to my little ship post from earlier on in the day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun to make. I was actually watching an episode of Bondi Rescue when the announcement for War Thunder boats came out, and I've been and ahhing about that for days and whether or not I should make it. Hope you got a laugh. It was just meant to be fun. This here is the more serious part of this discussion, where we're actually going to have a look at the boats themselves, or more to the point, the potential of the boats themselves. Because keep in mind, at this time, there has been an announcement, and we have been shown a couple of trailer clips. That's it. There has been nothing else at this time. So, first let's get this out of the way. No capital ships. There is none. I'm sure there's going to be people already typing into the comments, oh wait, Mags, Gaijin has said. No, Gaijin hasn't said. They haven't said it all. Read through the official documentation, not the comment sections underneath them. The developers have said that they did internal testing on the potential for ships, and without making them completely unrealistic and not suitable for what they wanted to do with the game, they didn't work. So they're focusing on light attack ships. They did say in questions underneath that there was a potential that you may see something up to destroyer size somewhere in the future. I would expect this would be a rank 5 vessel, but that's really it. They explicitly say that capital ships such as aircraft carriers, battleships and cruisers will be AI controlled, but they do say that they will be present on the battlefield, but we'll come to that in just a moment. So yes, they are out. There is also a post if you want more confirmation of this. If you go through to the official forums, there was a post put up by Scarpa. I will try and have a link in the comment section below if I can, where he goes through a list of reasons that Gaijin has given as to why, in detail, capital ship combat won't work in War Thunder. Now, they do open up the bottom of this with a, well, if you can come up with any ideas on how they might make it work, please feel free to let us know. I think that's on nearly 50 pages at the moment, and nothing's been accepted, and I don't expect anything will. Pretty much so it looks like Scarpa and Pacifica are just going through debunking anything that anybody posts, so, which is not unusual in these situations. It's what happens. So that's it. Let's get that out of the way. Gaijin has wiped the floor with capital ships. They're going to get dressed up and cleaned up for the naval combat, but they're not going to be player controlled. They're going to be AI controlled vessels. So that leaves us with potentially up to destroyers at maximum. Again, that isn't confirmed. That's just a potential direct from the Gaijin devs. The rest of it is going to be gunboats and fast attack boats, PT boats, stuff along those lines. And there is actually a very wide variety of ships in here. Well, boats in here. I really can't call them ships, can I? They are interesting. The time frame in particular that we could be looking at, let's start with that first. Establishing a time frame for how far the game can go is always the fun part of these kind of a thing. We know that tanks have gone to the 1960s, aircraft have been pulled at the late 1950s. With these patrol boats, these fast attack boats, and comparable technology to everything else that's present in the game, there is actually no reason why we can't see boats all the way up to the end of Vietnam at this point. There were patrol boats used heavily in the Vietnam conflict that would fit exactly the description that Gaijin is giving for their fast attack boats. So that's how far we could be going up the line there. And some of those were incredibly powerful, but not boats that would be game-breaking, I suppose is the way to put it. Combat environments, we're talking a fairly wide arc here. We can go everything from open blue water, these boats did serve in those sort of areas, into jungle estuaries like what you would see in the Vietnam conflict, which would actually mesh very well with tank units. Imagine trying to cross a river in a KV and suddenly discovering that there is an American PT boat in that river and it drops a torpedo that goes up the way. You'd want to hope that KV gets out of the way in a real hurry, otherwise it could make for a great video. Now, why jungles and rivers and that sort of in those tight, heavily forested environments would be a little bit safer, these small boats do run into a couple of problems. They're generally fairly lightly armoured on the hull. There wasn't a huge reason to armour them too heavily, because armour adds weight, and a lot of the survival of these particular small boats relied entirely on speed to get themselves out of trouble. Another thing to consider is a lot of the early ones were actually wood-decked, so with really no armour on the decks at all. So a direct attack from above from an aircraft is going to result in catastrophic damage in a single pass. 50 caliber rounds will rip these deck plates to pieces, penetrate fuel tanks, kill the crew members on board very, very easily. Even the ones that were armoured on top were not particularly thick. Good cannon rounds, 20mm cannon rounds from an aircraft will penetrate them easier than tank armour. Of course, things do actually get worse for these boats. Water has this whole thing about being flat, and trees and grass don't grow out of it. So when you have a boat on water and it's away from a jungle environment or trees that are overhanging said water, it's very easy to spot. You also create a wake when you're going through the water, which surprisingly enough, or ironically enough, looks like a giant white arrow pointing to your arse wherever you're going in your boat, which is very, very visible to aircraft. So open water becomes a problem until you consider that the devs did say that capital ships will be on the field as AI controlled. Now, for the moment, every discussion I've seen discussing capital ships, AI controlled capital ships in regards to these boats, has been with them being objectives, things that need to be destroyed, that needs to be sunk, and I entirely agree, they probably will be the objectives of the dedicated naval maps, will be to destroy these vessels. But here's something else to consider. These ships are huge, your boats that you're going to be in are very, very, very small, and they move. Water has no terrain features. Now you could base it in islands and do stuff like that to create the terrain features, or you could use the fleet itself to create mobile terrain features that move. Now my first thought on this one would be a map that would probably only work in an arcade environment because it's not incredibly realistic. But imagine for a moment an arcade map where you're controlling these PT boats and these small coastal patrol boats in a battlefield where destroyers and cruisers and battleships and even aircraft carriers had managed to get to, knife fight range of one another. Two complete fleets stacked almost on top of one another in a confined area, forming a maze that you're driving these ships through. It would be an interesting concept, not particularly realistic one, but it is one that would be, at the very least, very visually striking. In terms of more realistic gameplay, you could have a situation set up where two fleets are moving to attack one another, and as a PT boat, you could try and rush out to get the early attack on your objective ship, which might be the enemy's aircraft carrier, just for an example, the enemy's flagship. Or you could try and hold back and stay with your fleet, and as the AI ships move forward, use them as moving cover to get your ship or your boat into a position where you can jump out and attack something. There is some intriguing ideas of what you can do with the AI itself in that situation, especially if they're already up to speed and already partially engaged in combat by the time that you are beginning the match. It cuts down a lot of the time that they would need to maneuver to get into position. Gives you a few little options there on different tricks you can actually do. Looking at the AI and the ships as potential terrain rather than just objectives. In the end, all of this comes down to one simple thing. Will Gaijin pull it off? Will Gaijin do a good job? And this is where we don't know yet. We haven't seen any gameplay. The first gameplay we will see is in Gamescom. That starts on the 17th, so in just a couple of days. It will be, from what I've been reading, they are not just demoing the two pre-order ships that are currently been showed off. They'll actually be demoing some of what will be, the reserve boats for all 5 nations. Apparently, they're not going to be releasing these nation. They're going to drop all 5 at once. So, at the very least, there's going to be some variety floating around. That will be our first look at this and how it's going to operate. From there, the closed beta test I wouldn't expect to be more than a couple of months away. Buying in will obviously get you straight into the closed beta test. I imagine if it's anything like every other closed beta test that Gaijin have ever done, around about the time it comes out, there will be a competition on where you'll have to, blow up 200,000 ground units or something, and you'll be able to get in. Whatever crazy challenge that Gaijin sets to actually get you into the closed beta test, and you'll be able to do that if you wish to. But until then, we really have no further information on it. We're just speculating from here. As I said, I reckon it's probably a good test, or a good guess, that we're going to see AI used as both terrain features on open water maps as well as objectives. I think it's probably a good guess that we will see ships or boats up until Vietnam. I think it is possible we will see some light capitals at rank 5, destroyers, but possible but unlikely, I guess would be the best way to put it. I don't see any cruisers, battleships, or anything changing. Gaijin has been pretty clear about that, and if you take the time to read through the actual official releases from Gaijin, you'll see that they were pretty foot down about the thing. That this is what we're doing, and we will not be doing capitals. So this is not the naval combat we were hoping for. It's most certainly not the naval combat that I was hoping for. I was really hoping for playing a carrier. I kind of like that, what can I say? But this is what we're going to get. And it doesn't necessarily have to be horrible. It'll come down to how well Gaijin develop it, and we should have a fair idea how that's going to go within the next few months. Anyways, ladies and gents, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Do not worry, the next video will definitely have some gameplay in it. We're going to be looking at probably the KI-100 unless something else more interesting pops up. Until then, remember to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, and I will catch you in the skies.